Thank you for joining us. This is Brave New History. I'm here with Brother Mike. He is a convert to Alawite Islam and here to fill in some of the missing parts that we might not know about Alawites. Just before we were talking, by the way, thank you for joining us. And we were talking about the Alawite Reformation, which I was totally unfamiliar with. And a lot of information that's really not available on the internet or most places, rather than, I guess, ear to mouth for the most part. So, thank you so much. And if you could maybe give us a little background about how you came to it and the Alawi mission statement.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Assalamu alaikum to everyone, to you as well. Appreciate you having me. I wanted to give the mission statements of the Alawite Federation of America. We call it Allah's Witnesses, mainly because, and it's not like meant to be funny as a play on like Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever. It's mainly because like our mission is to witness that La ilaha illallah, that Allah is God alone, Muhammad Rasulullah, that Muhammad is the messenger of God, Ali Wali Allah, that Ali is the Wali, he is Amir al-Mu'mineen, the commander of the faithful, that Imam al-Hussein is the ark of salvation, and to witness about the advent and the return of Imam Mahdi. And that's the mission statement. We're at Shay Allah is what we're on socials. So thank you for allowing me to do the mission statement. That's because I think that kind of helps like square off, where to begin. I know you were interested in the history. A lot of people are really interested in the history of the Alawites. I think a lot of it has to do with the way in the ancient Alawite faith was really a mix of Gnosticism, Christianity, Islam. Now, again, like a part of that is because historically, Syria, the home of who would be the Alawites, was really a hotbed for early Christianity. Mm-hmm. The Alawites, I'm not sure if you know this, there was even an Alawite state at one point, not even that long ago, coastal Syria. Because of the coastal location, it's widely accepted that Gnosticism played a heavy role in early Christianity there. So you have a lot of Gnostic influence on the early Christianity in the area. And this is important because when the Prophet Muhammad comes, he's not necessarily seen by these people originally as something new per se. He's not necessarily seen as apart from a separation from Christianity. Rather, in many ways, he's seen as a fulfillment of it or a continuation of it. Some would even say maybe he was even considered as a Christian prophet coming to fulfill, what was prophesied. That's important, I think, because knowing that it's not necessarily originally seen in this area, at least by certain people, as a complete separate thing, I think it helps shed light. And I think it also plays a great role into these ancient Alawite beliefs, which, there was a triad, sort of like a trinity, beliefs in reincarnation. Now, of course, that has to have come from outside of the Christian world, really, probably more influenced by, I guess I would say, some type of Gnosticism or maybe some, Eastern type of religions. And so you have this, and then the Alawites, the prophet comes, the message is spread. Of course, it's a different world then. Things are coming together. People are you know, they're saying certain people are saying, this is not necessarily a different religion.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in doing that, they're trying to hold on to some things from the past. And that's where you're getting the triad and things like that. Now, there are things, of course, from the ancient Alawite faith which still exists today. And we'll get to that. I just wanted to kind of
Mm-hmm.
give that history, lay that background out, because it's super important. I mean, Alawites, yeah, we're like not really well known per se, but I mean, the president of a country is Alawite, and so was his father. You know what I mean? And so, and pretty much we're put there by the West originally. You know what I mean? So, like, this is important stuff to know, understanding. Now, to get back more on the religious track, it's like, so you have that history. So this is all bleeding in. People are trying to figure out, exactly what they want. They have the Alawite faith. It comes, and then, Alawites remain very secretive and underground for a long time, like a long time, like 1,000 years long time. You know what I mean? And when the Alawites come to the public view, of course, this is through Syria and politics and stuff, it becomes more spoken of. And of course, you had people, if you look at the background of Syria, you're seeing like a country that's heavily Sunni Islam, right? Now being ruled by an Alawite. And there's some, I would say, most likely some type of animosity. Like, you don't necessarily want to be ruled by someone that isn't like you or isn't one of you. And so the Alawites, it's not that they wanted to mainstream things per se. It's that they wanted to step up to what the truth is. What, going back to Ibn Nusayr, who was a disciple of the 10th and 11th Imam of Shia 12er Islam. So, I'll be honest with you. A lot of people will say that this was all political, that Hafez al-Assad, because the Constitution of Syria says that it's it's like it's a democracy. It's not a theocracy, but the president has to be Muslim. So some people will tell you that the only reason there was an Alawite Reformation was because to fulfill that, so that they could prove that the Assads were Muslim and they could be president. I don't think that's entirely true personally. I'm sure politics played some type of role in it, but I don't think that, the Madrasa in Qom would just open their doors to people they considered to be completely non-believers or non-Muslims. So I believe the Alawites have always been Muslim. I believe because they've always said, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah Ali Waliullah. That, you know what I mean? And they're Muslim regardless. So we are Muslim no matter what. But then this Reformation takes place, whether you think it was for politics or because it was just time or because it was, the right thing to do, whatever. This happens early 80s. Hafez al-Assad, he sends the Alawite sheikhs to Qom, where they learn Shia 12er jurisprudence. And it's at this point where this is like a reformation, like there was in Christianity, pretty much a lot of religions, which brought, in a way, what it did was it took the errors out, which had bled in from prior religions and things. It reformed the Alawite faith, put it in full acceptance into the Shia community, into the 12er community, and strive to, and what I believe it has accomplished in becoming a school of thoughts among the 12er Shia. And of course, there are differences. We'll talk about that. Because they're pretty important. But at the same time, that's really the history of it. So like you have that history, and then that's where you go, like.
Yeah. So the triad that was done away with in the 1980s, that they kind of said that was a bit off the whole time.
Basically, what it is eh, like more metaphorical type thing. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? There's not some literal triad. There's not a trinity. Like, I mean, there are even Christians who don't think there's a trinity. Like, you know what I mean? They might say they believe it, but at the same time, they kind of,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, like that thing. I mean, it was like a long time belief, but even then, it was still more like there's still only one God. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
the Trinity wasn't necessarily God. The triad was just like of one essence. You know what I mean? Uh, the gate, the name, and the meaning. And even in the ancient Alawite formula of the triad, it's not like a trinity where they're really explaining God. They're saying like these three are of one essence, and it makes sense because I mean, the prophet he says in multiple times like my Alawite, my people, we are one. You know what I mean? So he's saying that's what it's more about,
Mhm.
like that they are of one essence, as opposed to that these three are God and three separate people. It's not. It was never like that. Although it may have kind of been influenced by Gnosticism and Christianity at the onset. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because you don't come from a long time of being something, converting to something, and not having some type of carryover. That's just not logical. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And yeah, and that's always been my logic, has always been my plug for Islam, for Shia Islam, and for Alawi Islam. I mean, to me, it's just logic. Like, I don't know if I can explain this in this way, that you look at Abrahamic religions.
Mhm.
Uh, okay, you have Judaism, totally monotheistic, right? Uh, but there's a question of, was Judaism really meant? Now, this could be, some people can interpret this either way. Was Judaism actually meant to last? Or was it only to be a religion until the Messiah came? That's a question in its own. But where I see Judaism not being as logical, or the most logical of the Abrahamic religions, is basically of the omission of Jesus Christ. I mean, we're talking about like the most important figure of all time in all humanity, who ever lived, really. One of the most, you could, at least, you know what I mean? Just not being
Mhm.
part of it. Like, to me, that just, it's not logical.
Yeah.
And then you look at Christianity and you have the opposite. Like, you have the Trinity. And it's not, in that itself, like, is that even New Testament standard? Like, in the New Testament, Jesus says, God, God, why have you forsaken me? Gospel of Mark, he says, someone calls him good. Jesus says, don't call me
Mhm.
good. Only God is good. And then even in Second Timothy, it says, no one's seen God. So like,
Mhm.
to me,
Yeah.
Christianity is not logical. Like, and so what is logical is that Jesus was a prophet, and that he's the Ruach Allah, the Spirit of God. And where is this found and taught? Is in Islam. It's the most logical of the Abrahamic religions. It just makes the most sense, really. And like with the Shia part of it, again, like I could quote Quran all day, whatever, but like most people, they probably don't care or know. So like, you know what I mean? Like basically the Quran says, the Prophet says, if you love me, you'll follow my relatives, follow my near relatives. It's my household, the Alul Baits will be, uh, not, the word atonement isn't right. It's purification for you. That's Shia. That's not, you don't have that in Sunni. So like then Shia, and then you get to the, well, why Alawi Islam and not regular, Shia Islam or 12er Islam? Because those things which did carry over, which are true, which are actually in both hadiths and Sunni and Shia, which I was talking to you earlier about, which are like Imam Ali is an avatar for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Um, this is one reason I would say that I chose Alawi Islam over any other Islam. It's just the most logical to me. And I say logical, people might think I'm insane because they're like, what? You're saying this Imam is an avatar for Allah. You know, they think I'm Fruit Loops, but like it's what the Hadith says. The Hadith says, the Prophet says in the Hadith, well recorded, well Sunni and Shia Hadith, that to see Imam Ali is to worship. To mention Imam Ali is to worship. Ali is, so it's the truth. And where you're only going to find it in Alawi Islam. And that's an ancient belief that hasn't gone away. So why some of the stuff has gone away, like the reincarnation stuff and the triad stuff, it may have gone away, but that doesn't mean Alawi Islam isn't still Alawi Islam. It is, because these greater truths have been kept forward.
So could we say, like, along the idea of Ali being an avatar for Allah, could we say, you know, just like the Kaaba is maybe an avatar for prayer, like the direct is a stand-in for Allah, right? For prayer, Ali is a stand-in for worship, or would you not agree?
I mean, you could, like, is it in the Hadith though? That's the question for me as a Muslim. You know what I mean? But I will tell you that an Alawite belief on this same note is that it's well recorded that Imam Ali was born in the Kaaba. Okay? So we Alawites believe that since Imam Ali was born in the Kaaba, and if you look it up, you'll see there were like miracles about this. Like the walls of the Kaaba opened like miraculously. Imam Ali is the Kaaba. So what is Hajj? Hajj is Hajj not accepting the Wali of Ali? Is Hajj going to Mecca and going to the Kaaba, or is Hajj in your heart accepting the Wali of Imam Ali? Right? I mean, that's an Alawite thing, like, because it's sort of esoteric, right? Like, we're seeing that because it is well documented at least in the, I believe even in Sunni Hadiths, that Imam Ali was born in the Kaaba. Now, why was he born in the Kaaba? I mean, there has to be a reason. So in that sense, Imam Ali is the Kaaba.
Gotcha. So kind of that analogy of, I mean, you would agree that like just like the direction of prayer is towards the Kaaba, the direction of worship is towards Ali, but you're not worshiping Ali. Is that fair to say?
It's not that it's necessarily toward Ali. Like a great distinction would be, okay, we believe he is the avatar for Allah, and we believe that the Waliyah, accepting him as the Wali, Amir al-Mu'mineen, the commander of the faithful, is mandatory in that sense. That, like, in the sense of not that necessarily like you're not Muslim if you don't have the Wali of Ali per se. It's not like that, but it's that basically for you to have the grace of intercession given to us through the Ahlul Bayt, given to us from God through the Ahlul Bayt, you must have the Wali of Ali. So it's not that, no, there's no praying to Ali, because again, he is not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he is an avatar for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I mean, some people say it's not right, but I mean, it's in the hadiths, and also it's one of those things where it's just like if you go as far back as you go in history, like religious history in general, there's always some type of version of an avatar for Allah. I mean, even going back to like Zoroastrianism and stuff, and like even early like Eastern religions. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, it's basically a universal truth, in my opinion, that exists.
Yeah.
Ali happens to be the one, and it's in the Quran, and it's in the Hadith, and I mean, it's there for a reason. Like, and mainly is, again, it's not that you pray. Like, a lot of people say, why do you say Ya Ali? I mean, that doesn't mean, it's because Ali is uh, of God. You know what I mean? So you can say Ya Ali. It's not polytheism, or we're not.
What does that mean, Ya Ali?
It just means, oh Ali,
Uh,
like,
okay.
or Ya Ali Madad, oh Ali, our helper, help us Ali. Uh, these things are often criticized, but
Yeah. Well, if I'm not mistaken, in the Quran, they say "O Prophet" a bit.
Ya Muhammad, I mean,
And so, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily take that as Allah worshiping Muhammad
no,
through that. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So, like, really, and that's an interesting segue how you mentioned Imam Ali, uh, because, like, that is a difference of, like, prior to the show, we had talked a little and mentioned, like, a great way to understand the Alawite religion is to understand, like, 12 or Shia Islam, and then then find the differences. You know what I mean? And that's starting with Imam Ali. Uh, Now, again, I'm sure I can't speak for other Shia Muslims, but I'm sure there are other Shia Muslims who believe that Imam Ali is an avatar for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on the authentic hadith of the Ahlul Bayt. So, I mean, but that the waliya of Imam Ali is mandatory type of thing, that's not necessarily common. Actually, most Shia Marja, the leaders, and most Shia sheikhs, even 12er, will tell you no. Like, if you look it up, even Ayatollah Sistani will tell you you don't have to have the Wali Ali to be Muslim. You know what I mean? So this is, I had mentioned, I think it was before the show, but that in some ways, the Alawites are even more Shia than certain other sects of Shia. And, honestly, that kind of goes back to the ancient days, because Ibn Nusayr, who founded the Alawites, disciple of the 10th and 11th Imam, believed that Alawites were the carriers of the true and pure Shia doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that what has carried on,
Yeah.
Also, another interesting thing is, because of the secrecy of the Alawites over the thousands of years too, who's to know really, like, the things like the triad and the reincarnation? A lot of times it's believed that was actually made up by enemies of Alawi. Those things were made up by enemies of Alawi to get people to hate us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How else would you know? It was secret for so long.
Yeah.
So, like, you can say, oh, they have a triad, they have a trinity, they believe in reincarnation. Okay, how do you know that? We're secret for 1,000 years. How do you know? I mean, I think a lot of that comes from the outside.
Yeah.
Although, because, like, I did say there was a triad. There was, but, like, it wasn't a trinity. But, like, when people talk about it, they talk about it like it was a trinity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the same is true with Christians and like being misrepresented. There's plenty of stuff to disagree with, but kind of people straw man the beliefs and kind of make a worse case for their opponents, right? Whereas the Trinity isn't exactly as it's being described. I mean, it's strikingly different from Tawhid, but there's plenty enough to disagree with without making
Oh yeah, I've heard some great apologists, man. Like, really argue like the Trinity is monotheistic. Like, you know what I mean? And I accept their opinions of it. Like, I wouldn't call a Christian a kufr. You know what I mean? Yeah. I believe they're brothers in Abraham. Same with Jews too. Like, and most Alawites do. That's why the Assad regime, they call it regime, but the
Mhm.
Assad protects the Christians. He protects the Christian villages. He
Yeah.
protects the churches against other Muslims from extremist Muslims killing them. He protects the Christians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you'll see that even with Iran and Azerbaijan. Like, Iran will side with Armenia against a Shia country, Azerbaijan. When it's right, it's right. When it's wrong, it's wrong. I
Mhm.
mean, and that is in Islam too. That, you know, there is that universal type thing where, you know, we're all like related through Abraham. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I don't like to like. I didn't mean earlier to like dog on Christianity. Really, I was
Mhm.
just using it as like why I didn't think it was logical for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah. No, I understand.
and how it got me to where I am. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, like, because I'm sure
So,
like the things I'm saying are totally illogical to a lot of people. But you know what I mean? It is what it
yeah.
is. I mean, there's no, like the Quran says, there's no compulsion in religion. You know what I mean? Which is interesting because you'll see like theocracies and you're like, well, how is that not compulsion in religion, right? I mean, to me it is, but you know,
Mhm.
that's a different story, I guess, for a different day. But
Sure. So with the more esoteric beliefs, we have the concept of the triad, which isn't quite as codified as people might make it out to be.
yeah,
That I've heard that, you know, there's, like you had alluded to, there's Wali through history, or there's Avatar through history.
Avatar, I would say, yeah, not necessarily
Got
Wally,
it.
but Avatar, yeah.
And now, would you, like, I've heard the idea of maybe it's pre-Reformation Alawite religion, where they believe that there's Jesus, Paul, and Peter. So
Yeah, you're
as
right.
forming,
Like they're connected to other people. Um, like it's hard to explain, but like let's just say Peter. Okay, where's my hand? Here's Peter, right? Then there's another figure later. This is where the reincarnation stuff comes in, and this is this is why I say it's not reincarnation per se, because even in the standard Zariyat, people could say the Zariyat Warith prayer I was telling you, where it says Imam Hussein is the inheritor
Mhm.
of, you know, the inheritor of Noah, the inheritor of Abraham, the inheritor of Moses. People could say that in a sort of a way is reincarnation, because so like, okay, so you have Peter, right? And then you have someone else latter. They're of one essence. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But like, I hate to use the word reincarnation, because then people get caught up and they think that just because it applies or applied at that situation, even if it was some sort of recycling of a soul, that it applies to everyone. That doesn't mean it does. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
but yes, you're right. There is the thing where like Peter was connected to a latter figure spiritually, basically. I'm gonna use the word spiritually because it's the easiest way to understand it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Just like I said, I don't know if I said this or not, but it's an Alawite belief that there is the nexus, there is that connection with Imam Hussein and Jesus Christ. Um, the
Yeah.
ancient Alawite belief is that Ibn Nusayr taught that Jesus Christ was the sum of all the prophets. And I think this is where another part of the reincarnation came in. This was an ancient
Mhm.
Alawite belief. The founder of the Alawites taught this, that Jesus was the inheritor, not the inheritor, I'm sorry, the sum of, basically, the sum of all the prophets from Adam through the prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him. I can see that being interpreted as some kind of recycling of a soul. I just don't want to use the word reincarnation because it, it's not really academically honest. It's like, because when people think of reincarnation as something completely different, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Not totally different, but like, I think you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
It,
like
it brings up other connections that aren't there.
that aren't there, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, even then, at the very basis of the Alawite, that's where I think that, and also maybe some bleeding in from Eastern cultures, like Syria's at this crossroads, And also you have outsiders saying, oh, look, see, they believe in reincarnation. See, they're like the East. You know what I mean? Because they believe that Jesus was the sum of all the prophets. But like that, we look at that, Alawites, we look at that. We say Jesus is the sum of all the prophets. And then we look at the Zariyat Warith, which says Hussein is the inheritor of basically all the prophets.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that connection, and we see, that's not the only connection with them two, but like we draw on that for that spiritual nexus that we believe exists between Jesus and Imam Hussein.
Mm-hmm. And that's another interesting part, that I think they explicitly reference salvation through Jesus, through Imam Hussein, or something along those lines.
Well, trying to think how to say this without saying it wrong. We believe that Imam Hussein is the intercessor for all mankind. So it's not that, and this is in the Hadith, okay? Now, this is another area where we differ in certain ways from 12er Shia. Because, don't get me wrong, 12er Shia do believe in the intercession of Hussein, but they also believe in, that they kind of have, it's kind of more of an expanded intercession, like the entire Alawite household of the Prophet can intercede.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we believe that the keys of intercession were handed to Hussein from the Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah, sounds a lot like Peter in Christianity, isn't it?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I can definitely see a connection there. So like this intercession was even prophesied, like, and Shia Hadith say so, like when Hussein was a kid, when he was a baby, the Prophet Muhammad was shown what was going to happen. He knew that on the battlefield in Karbala, Imam Hussein would be martyred. He knew this. So he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not like Christianity where Hussein is a sacrifice. He's not like some kind of human sacrifice to die for your sins. Rather, the Prophet asked him, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grant the keys of intercession to him. Grant him these keys. Now, these keys of intercession are, this is sort of kind of like with Christianity, I guess, where like they can intercede for you. You know what I mean? Like these holy people, they can intercede for you. It's in the Quran. I mean, if you Google like intercession Quran, you'll see like some that say it's against it, some that say it's for it. But I mean, if you delve further and you read into the Hadiths, you'll see intercession is an Islamic concept. And it's still different than the concept that like Christ died because of our sins or for our sins as a human sacrifice type thing, sacrifice, blood offering from the Old Testament. It's like really not like that at all. It's another distinction. But it's more like Hussein is our intercessor. He was, based on the Hadith, he was granted the keys of intercession. His martyrdom was so bad. You see, the angel said, I believe it was the angel Gabriel, told the Prophet Muhammad that he has the keys of intercession, but like when someone, the greatest martyr ever comes, the one to suffer the most, he will be granted the keys of intercession. And then the Prophet himself later says, oh Allah, please grant these keys of intercession to Hussein. For all, and then it's even expanded to where Hussein in some hadiths is not only the intercessor of the Prophet's people, he's the intercessor for all mankind. And it doesn't, and we believe, the Alawites believe that if you don't have to necessarily be Muslim, if you mourn for Hussein, he will intercede for you on the Day of Judgment. You don't necessarily have to be. Sorry, I have a cat and she's knocking.
Yeah, as do I. I was just on an interview where my cats were having a dispute because it kind of got controversial for a second there, and but
I asked a good friend who is a sheikh. He's like really, he's a Shia 12er sheikh, American born, has been all around the world. Like he's top notch, man. Like so humble. Like I've always considered him like, if anyone reminded me of like a living version of Jesus, it was this dude. Mm-hmm. Like down to earth, humble, not fake humble, like totally humble.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's been to Iran, he's been everywhere. He speaks like 5 languages. He knows everything. And I asked him, this was when I first came to the Alawite faith, and I had gone to, the services with the Shia. I asked him, I was like, I heard my Alawites taught me that the Christian who mourns for Hussein is greater than the Muslim that doesn't. And he looked at me and said, you're probably right. Like it's heavy, man. Like, yeah, I mean, I mourn for Hussein all the time, and every time I drink water, I say Ya Hussein or I think of Imam Hussein. And if you study the Battle of Karbala, I believe it was even talked about in the Bible. The sacrifice on the Euphrates, I believe it's in the book of Isaiah, talks about the sacrifice, this great sacrifice that will take place on the Euphrates. And many Muslims believe it's a reference to Karbala, where Imam Hussein was murdered. And his family, and I'm sorry.
What happened to Hussein?
He was martyred, greatly murdered by the evil people, man, the enemies, the haters.
Like what happened to him? He was drowned?
His whole family, no, man. Tortured. Oh, man, it's hard to even talk about. Sorry. It's like real bad. You look up the Battle of Karbala, man. It's the whole family, man. They're all wiped out. And, Hassan, who is Hussein, with Hussein, his companions stayed with it. His companions betrayed him and he died still. At least Hussein's companions died with him, but it's like they were all murdered, man. Forced. Imam Hussein, but he was so much Christ-like, man. He said even to his executioner, he said, give me 1 drink of water. I'll intercede for you on the day of judgment. Because they were making them die of thirst. The children, the babies, they were making them die they were withholding water in the desert. Like, it's torturing these people. Hussein, his executioner's on his chest. And Hussein says to him, give me 1 drink of water. I will intercede for you on the day of judgment. What man does that? That's the spirit of Christ, at least to me. And when I heard that, I was instantly, I dare to say saved. But to me, that's a moment where I died in this world and was born again, Shia Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
That was my journey. Christ led me to Hussein. Hussein led me to submission. And that's where I am now. And it's thanks to the Alawites, man. And I congregate with the Shia 12ers. And I really think we're a school of thought amongst the Shia 12ers. Like a lot of them, I don't know. I can't speak for them. But I'm hoping that we can fully be accepted as a school of thought among the Shia 12ers.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so that was that difference. Like Hussein, we see that nexus. That's what I was talking about. Like, not only are they both inheritors, like Hussein and Christ, but like, what man would say that, to his executioner who's been killing everyone and torturing him? I'll intercede for you on the day of judgment for just a drop of water. You know what I mean? That to me, that's the living example of the spirit of Christ. Any day, all day. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, so that, I know we were talking about the difference. Like we believe, like really it's not that we believe Hussein's, we basically do. Alawites, we basically focus on, mainly believe that Hussein is the intercessor. He's like the main intercessor. Like the keys of intercession were handed to him. And we're not saying that invalidates all intercession, but in our belief, like that's our main focus is that intercession of Imam Hussein, as-salam. So,
and then also the salvific power of Christ. Is there something along those lines?
Like, how we believe like Christ, like we believe, okay, I can explain how we believe Christ pretty simply. And if Muslims are watching this, some of them are going to say, oh, he's a kufr or that I'm a Christian, but this is all from the Quran and from Islam. We believe Jesus is the word and spirit of God, the Ruh Allah, the Messiah, born of a virgin, who by Allah's permission gives life, by Allah's permission resurrects life, and by Allah's permission is still living. You see, in the Quran, I say this because in the Quran, Jesus forms a bird out of clay and it breathes life into it. But the difference is I say by Allah's permission. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to distinguish me from a Christian, is that I'm saying by Allah's permission. Whereas I think in Christianity, they don't say that really. They say like Jesus does this basically by his own permission. I don't know. You know, I mean, I don't want to speak. I don't want to I don't want to like talk bad about anybody else's beliefs. But I'm just saying like that's our stance on Jesus Christ. And we do, and like a lot of Muslims, they all love Jesus, man. Sunni, Shia. In the Zariyat Warith, I was telling you, the prayer that says Hussein is the inheritor, it literally says, peace be unto you, O Hussein, the inheritor of Jesus, the Ruh Allah, the Spirit of God. I mean, there's a surah in the Quran named after Jesus' mother. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah. I mean, intercession, I could totally see that there was a time where Jesus, why couldn't he be an intercessor? Why couldn't he intercede for you on the day of judgment? He can. I believe that for me as an Alawite, Hussein's our intercessor. He was given the keys. But at the same time, like, who's to say that somebody who's Jewish who keeps the Torah, they ask for Moses' intercession on the day of judgment. The Christian, they ask for Jesus' intercession on the day of judgment. I ask for Hussein's intercession on the day of judgment. I'm sure there are going to be Sunnis that ask for the Rasulullah, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him's intercession on the day of judgment. And honestly, in my mind, and in the mind of our small Alawite group, they'll all be granted, man. Because Allah is Rahmani Rahim, merciful, compassionate, you know. The Quran, it even says, I wish I had all the quotes with me, but it even says on that day, meaning the day of judgment, no man or jinn will be judged or asked about his sin. I mean, it literally says that. So it's like, and I've read a lot of commentaries, you know, Sunni and Shia say, oh, this doesn't mean that everyone's saved. It doesn't mean that. But, you know, kind of think it does. And then you look later in the Quran and it says, you know, every atom you do that's good you will see, and every atom of evil you do you will see. So the Alawites taking kind of a philosophical approach, which came in from, like you had mentioned prior, like philosophy, is that as long as you have that intercession on the day of judgment, you will not be asked about your sin. But that's not a card to sin freely, because every atom of good you do, you will see, and every atom of evil you do, you will see. This is karma. This is another thing we believe, that it's kind of gotten merged in with reincarnation, and they say we're Hindu. You know what I mean? But it's in the Quran, man. Like, and it, like, that isn't, to me, and even to ancient Alawites, that's always kind of, I mean, modern day, to me, that's the definition of karma. Like, what you do wrong is going to come back to you, and what you do good is going to come back to you. You know, so that's like that belief. And I probably got off track there.
No, yeah. No, that's good. And then there's a bit of attention to Plato under Alawite belief, yeah?
Especially in the ancient belief, a great respect, like, to the ancient Alawites would even say that he was like a prophet. Now, of course, like, a prophet doesn't necessarily mean like divine or anything, but yeah, the ancient Alawites believed. In fact, I believe Ibn Nusayr, when he said that, it's in that same teaching where he says that, like, Jesus is the sum of all the prophets. He includes later, like a few verses down, some of the Greek philosophers, just because of the knowledge they brought. You know what I mean? The way of thinking, like, and that's definitely part of the Alawite faith. That's why a lot of it is like kind of logical. Oh, sorry, my battery's down to 14.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, so that's in there. I mean, it's not something like if you ask modern Alawites, no, I mean, was Plato a prophet? You're gonna probably be like, no, man, like that's not what we're focusing on. Like, but it's like, but what is a prophet? You know what I mean? Like, how do you define it? Like, I know a lot of Christians, they could easily say MLK was a prophet, and rightfully so. How was he not? You know what I mean? So,
although you still hold that Muhammad was the seal of the prophets.
absolutely, 100%. The Rasulullah, Muhammad, peace be unto him, is the final prophet, the seal of the prophets. Again, the Alawite are an extension of him, his family, the household of the prophet. They are an extension of him. Like that's in the Quran and Hadith too. Mm-hmm. Like, so it's not that we say even like we don't say Imam Hussein's a prophet. We don't say Imam Ali's a prophet. Prophet Muhammad is the final prophet, but they are an extension of him. So that's how that comes to be.
Gotcha. So we could say MLK is also part of.
Well, I mean, I was just saying, like, I've known Christians who believe that, like, he's a modern day prophet, like Martin Luther King. Why not? Like, look at what he did and how he did it. Like, he changed the whole world, man, you know? Like, but that doesn't mean like he's some type of demigod or anything. And that's the way the ancient Alawites viewed like Plato and stuff. Like, they're not like divine or anything, but like they did some important stuff, like more than regular people, like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, again, for me, Muhammad is the final prophet. That is what it is. But I'm just saying, I was just using that as like an analogy, like how you could say like just regular people, you know what I mean? Prophets are like regular people in many ways. Like even Muhammad says, like, don't worship.
All right, here you're kind of cutting out a little bit here,
man. You know.
All right, kind of cutting out. I think we might be losing you here. All right. Yeah, I think we might have lost battery here, so we'll have to do a part 2, perhaps. Still showing connected though, so maybe not. Maybe didn't lose him. Maybe not do a part 2, but yeah. So a lot of questions here. Yeah, low power here in the comments. So here, maybe we'll answer a few of these. Well, I know we can answer Ralph's. That was in the very beginning. Yeah, we lost him. But yeah, in the beginning of the interview, he said, maybe there's a bit of politics involved with the Reformation, which before the interview we were talking about, this happened in 1983, which Alawite beliefs came in line more along mainstream Shia, and but still retained a lot of the older esoteric beliefs. And was it to avoid persecution? A lot of it was kind of coming in line with the mainstream and just acknowledging that is where they ought to be. And then wish we got to the 12th Imam here. So we'll have to return to this. Still hiding down the well. I heard it was a tunnel. But I know I've talked to Shia before. They say, no, he's in occultation, not necessarily in a tunnel or well. Could be pretty much anywhere in any form. And let's see. Yeah, we'll have to have these questions for another time. Oh, here we go. No, we don't. We're back. Thank you
Yeah,
so
I'm
much.
sorry. I had to switch to my phone. I'm really sorry. That computer just totally I thought I had like 15 to 20% left on it, but it said I did. But it kind of crashed on me. I'm sorry about that, man.
Oh yeah, no worries. No worries. Yeah, I'm glad we could pick that up again. I started to answer some of the questions based off of the early parts of our interview because we have some questions here. But
okay.
But you're the expert here. Maybe do you want to are we limited in time for your battery?
No, I mean I'm good. I didn't realize this would work with a phone. So I mean, if his phone is fine with you, I can go for a little bit longer. Yeah.
Yeah. If it works, it works. So have you, Vane? Very, very interesting topic. It absolutely is. I thought I was familiar with Alawite Islam, but not so much. After like even talking briefly before our interview, I had no idea about so much. And here's Ralph Ellis. We touched on this before. Are Alawites pretending to be Shia Muslims merely to avoid persecution against unbelievers and to avoid jizya? Which, I mean, obviously you want to avoid jizya, right? But you would say maybe there's a little bit of that, but it's mostly just being honestly convinced.
I believe it's more being honestly convinced because of I believe this is so because of the nexus with the founder of the Alawites, Ibn Nusayr, and the 10th and 11th Imam. If there wasn't that nexus, that's that ancient, I could see where, people could say that. But again, I think a lot of that stuff comes from people who just hate Alawites, man. And they want to make up rumors and stuff. Just like I said, like with the reincarnation, they say, oh, because we believe, Jesus was the sum of all the prophets, that all of a sudden we believe in reincarnation totally or whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And again, like I mentioned earlier, being secretive for 1,000 years, how do these people who claim to know this stuff actually know it? I mean, a lot of it's probably just detractors, I would say. But it's a very good question. And it's a very good, I mean, totally believable opinion. Like I could see why you would say, or maybe think that Alawites are just pretending to be Shia. But there is that connection, and it's an ancient one. So it's not fake.
Yep, for sure. And then I had started to answer this question here. The 12th Imam in occultation, do they believe he's in here I'm hearing the word well. I heard it was a tunnel. But what's your take on that?
I don't want to speak for the 12er take on it. We believe more that it's more like a veil type thing in a spiritual realm. So that's how we believe it. Different Shia believe in different things, and I don't really want to speak for them. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to misquote anybody or get anybody wrong. So yeah, our belief's more like mystical, man. Like in the sense that Imam Mahdi, he's alive, man. Like right now, even he's just in hiding. He was revealed, concealed. He'll be revealed again. So there's just a veil hiding him, basically. So I don't know if you believe in different realms, but like there are different realms of existence. You know what I mean? And so he's in that realm, and the veil will come down, but there are a lot of different ways people believe like Imam Mahdi will come back. Like some believe there's certain things you can do to have him come back, like salawats, like, greeting the Prophet in his household. Certain prayers and stuff, certain amount of times, or
he'll come down, or he'll be revealed to you personally,
like to the whole world. But like, there's also belief that when a certain amount of believers are true 100% true mu'min, true believers, then he'll be revealed. and the number is not high. So if you believe in that, then you're basically saying that virtually most people who are claim to be aren't actually true believers. So the Alawites kind of strayed from that. Stay away from that. That's more of like a Shia thing, like a 12er thing. I don't really want to, so I don't really want to quite. I believe the number is 313. When there's 313, like true, full on, true, all the way, pure Momim, true believers, that Imam Mahdi will be right here, like in a whistle. I have no problem with like the mystical aspect of it, though. Him being revealed to you even now, like, why not, right? Like, that doesn't mean he's going to reveal to the whole world, though. Like right now, until there's enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At least in what we believe.
Yeah, and along those lines, there's the righteous Imam that I've heard Alawi don't believe in building mosques, or like maybe this is an older belief until there's a righteous Imam.
Yeah, I believe that was prior to the 12th Imam. That was prior to the 12th Imam, when Ibn Nusayr was a disciple of the 10th and 11th Imam. That righteous Imam is Imam Mahdi. So, but still, you're getting more like houses of worship and prayer halls than you are actual Alawite mosques, per se. It seems to be, because remember, in Syria, where it's really the hotbed of it, like it's, besides America, Syria, I think there's some in Turkey, but then there's Alevis, which are Turkey. They're actually different. Like, people get them confused all the time because they're pronounced similar and spelt similar, but they're more like Sufis than they are. They're not even Shia. But so Syria is the main place, it's like the hotbed. And I believe even some parts of Iran. So you have that. It's still kind of a cultural thing there. You know what I mean? Remember, the majority of Syria is Sunni. So like, I mean, you got to have that balance. So mosques aren't that prevalent there. It's more like, the equivalent would be like little houses where they have like Bible studies and stuff. You know what I mean? Like in the States, you have like groups that meet in homes. That's more common for Alawi, especially in Syria. Now here, most of us, like, there's only like a handful of us anyway. And all of us go to Shia mosques, mainstream, like 12 or Shia mosques. And we're just trying to basically become accepted as a school of thought. Because, I mean, if you look, even in Syria, Alawites see themselves as 12ers, man. They just see themselves as a school of thought amongst the 12ers. Ever since the Reformation, maybe even before. Like, it's hard to tell before, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep, gotcha. So here, this is Ralph. We're getting into politics, but this was the problem with Obama trying to get rid of Assad. When Assad is the protector of minorities, if he had succeeded, 5 million Alawites, and are there even 5 million Alawites?
No way, man. I don't think so.
And 5 million Christians would have been slaughtered. Well, this is a hard question to answer, being that the premise is kind of, we might find some difficulty, that had Obama been trying to get rid of Assad, I don't think there would be Assad. I don't think.
Yeah, I remember Obama drew a red line. Didn't he let Assad cross it? Didn't he?
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Which honestly, I think was a good thing. But like, again, like at the same time, Obama was kind of behind the Arab Spring, which kind of made Syria a lot worse. So he kind of played both sides of it, in my opinion. I don't want to get too much into the politics of it, but yeah. I kind of think the Arab Spring really screwed up Syria. It created a lot of terrorism. But at the same time, he did let Assad cross some red lines. I mean, the West, man, has been so hypocritical with Assad. I mean, you have pictures of him having dinner with John Kerry one week, and then the next week they're calling for his head. And honestly, in my opinion, it's just because he doesn't want to do everything they want him to do. But of course, I'm pro-Assad. I'm an Alawite. but like, and I believe, honestly, I think he's one of the best leaders in the Middle East, if not the best, because he does protect minorities. There would be a lot of dead Christians and a lot of burned down churches without Assad. I don't really want to talk about this too much because I'll probably get, my door kicked in because they'll think I'm like pro-Russia. You know what I mean? Because Assad's an ally with Russia. But honestly, that's America's dropped the ball on that, man. I really think we should have been better allies to Syria and the Assad regime, 100%.
Gotcha. All right. And then here's a comment kind of touching on the whole, what do we call it? Recycling of souls, we've termed it. Archetypes, that's another good term. Newer manifestation of the same archetype, the next generation. That's a good way to put the whole, the metaphorical triad.
It is like in like the mystical branches of Judaism, they have what they call Gilgul. It's like in Hasidism, like it's the recycling of the souls. And again, it's like one of those things where like Judaism doesn't really teach it per se, but like it's the mystical branches of it do. You know what I mean? But it's one of those things where like we all come from one source, right? So if we all go back to that source again and then someone else is born, like, isn't there a connection there with that one source still? Isn't that sort of in a way some kind of a reincarnation type thing? You know what I mean? Like if you and I, we come from the same source, the source of all sources, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So we die, we go back to the source, right? Someone else comes from the source. Like, aren't we part of that source, sort of? Like, again, I stray from the word reincarnation because of, what people start making up things like you mentioned that aren't there. But like at the same time, like I do believe in that nexus with spiritual nexus with, like I've said it in one of my videos I said, the man Imam Hussein is not Christ Jesus, yet they are one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so they are one, but they're not the same. Like, so it's not necessarily like reincarnation, but like they are of that same spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And let's see. So kind of all along the same lines, Sobek, Lord of the Four Corners, says, kind of sounds like the followers of Simon of Samaria. They believed God was manifest as the Son through Jesus. This is kind of a little bit deep, so it's hard for me to kind of visualize what we have going on. They believe that God was manifest as the Son through Jesus. So kind of like the Logos emanating from the monad in Gnosticism. I think that's what we're talking about. And then made into a person as Jesus, which kind of along the same lines kind of sounds like Jesus as the Word. Jesus as Messiah. It's like
John 1, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God, right? It sounds like that. And that's probably where they get it, I would assume, right?
There's a lot of debate. The mainstream view is no, but Gnostics kind of took it that way, which there's Platonic thought in there, which it wasn't. Yeah, it's contentious. They believe God was manifest as the Son through Jesus Christ, as the Father through Simon. I did not hear that. And as the Holy Spirit in the world. I did not know the kind of, what are they called? Simonians believed that God the Father was manifest in Simon.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I have a friend who's a pretty good friend I know, like from online. Like I've been friends with him for a long time. He's like a Gnostic Christian. Like he's big into it. I could ask him about that at some point. He would know.
Yeah.
I was talking to him about Islam. The only
Yeah.
reason he won't consider Islam is because he doesn't believe in the immortality of the soul.
Yeah.
Other than that, he'd be on board, but it's like that's his hitch, man. They don't believe in that. I guess they just believe like you die. That's it.
Well, there's so much variety, just like with everything, right? Like this Simonian Gnosticism, which I mean, I don't even know if we would call it Gnosticism, really. Religion is a complicated thing, right? And like, there's just so many ways to take Gnosticism, so many, so much variation.
I find it interesting though, like how a couple of the stories from like the Gnostic Gospels that were left out of the Bible are in the Quran. Like I mentioned, like Jesus creating the bird out of clay and breathing life into it. That's in the Quran. That's also in the Gnostic Gospels. Like they were left out of the Bible. Also, the other one I know off the top of my head is that the Quran says Jesus's first miracle was that he defended his mother's name from the cradle. Like as a baby, like as an infant, he basically, when people were criticizing Mary, he spoke. Like he was like defended his mother verbally as an infant, like who couldn't speak yet. And that's considered his first miracle in the Quran. And so that's also found in the Gnostic Gospels, which were left out of the Bible.
Yeah, which let's see. So the birds out of clay, that's the infancy gospel of Philip.
Yeah.
And there's another one where he says, well, basically in the cradle, my mother was a virgin, right? Or something along those lines, right?
Defending his mother's name. Like they're basically accusing her of not being a virgin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, basically, I mean,
and
saying things that aren't true about her.
The Quran expresses it as there's a river under you.
Honestly, I would have to look it up, dude. I mean, I've read a lot of Quran. Yeah, I think something similar. Yeah. And also, I would honestly have to look it up. But yeah, like it's totally Mary's, in Islam, we believe that she's a virgin, like 100%. Like that's a miracle thing. Mm-hmm. Like it's like Christianity in that sense. There is a lot of similarities with Christianity and Islam. In fact, I actually think in a lot of ways, like Islam is closer to Christianity than Judaism is. Actually, people find that weird because, Christianity is like basically, comes right from the Old Testament, but, and in many ways, actually, though, Islam is like Judaism in the sense, especially with like dietary laws and things. So in practice, like with prayer, like the Karaite Jews, I believe, pray just like Muslims do. I believe they prostrate. They go all the way to the floor like we do.
And I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot about Gnostic influence within, or similarities between Islam and Gnosticism, which, I mean, we have swoon theory, right? So somehow Jesus didn't die on the cross. That was held by a lot of Gnostics.
That's, a very Gnostic thing, I think. Yeah. Again, like Alawites have always believed, like the Ishmaelis believe that it's more like a spiritual thing. Like the word of God can't die. So, interestingly, when you watch the movie, The Green Stuff, so like basically physically Jesus was crucified, but like he didn't die. You know what I mean? God raised him up. Like the prophet says, it's in the Quran, is like basically they're kind of boasting they killed him. The scene, to set the scene in the Quran, they're saying, aha, yeah, we killed Jesus, he said he was the Messiah, and the Prophet Muhammad says, nay, they boast, they killed him not. It was made to appear that way. That's really all it says in the Quran about it, really. Like everything else is commentary. Like kind of, what does that mean? That it appeared that way. Some people have always historically said that, it means that, there was a substitute for him. But appear that way could just mean he just his body just looked like it died, and he was just looked like it. You know, he didn't actually die, because if he's the rule of law, the Spirit of God, I mean, that can't be killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard a lot of what do we want to say, rebuttals to the idea. There's, some prominent Muslims who kind of say that Jesus did die on the cross. And well, how can you square that with the Quran, right? Where they would probably say he didn't permanently die, like he physically died, but the part that is him didn't die, and he was resurrected, so we don't really count that as a death.
Like
the idea.
Yeah, like the spirit, like the rule of law, the Spirit of God, who is Jesus, like it doesn't die. Like it can't die. Like it's impossible. Like in Islam, Jesus is still living now. Like he didn't die. Like he was up from the cross. You know what I mean? Or with people who substitute it, like I think a lot of them say, I think in Sunni Islam, I might get this wrong. So like if I'm ever quoting Sunni or anybody, like double check it, because I don't want to speak for them. But I do believe like he was maybe being marched to the cross and then he was switched out. And some Shia believe that too. But the Alawites have always been more like the Ishmaelis, where we believe that Jesus went to the cross and stuff, but he didn't die on it. Because, I mean, if you don't believe in original sin, right, then there's no need to believe that, like, he died on the cross for your sins, right? That all plays into, like, original sin. Like, if you believe in original sin, then it kind of makes sense that you would think, oh, no, he did actually die. You know what I mean? But if you don't, I mean, that argument's gone. And it's like, I don't know. My Christian interpretation of it, I always kind of felt like, I don't know, like they say, he died and then he went to hell and then went back up to heaven. Like, I don't know. I mean, I always kind of thought Jesus was too good for that, man. And I kind of think Islam teaches that. That's just my own personal view. You know what I mean? But like,
I've heard the whole idea of original sin in Islam. A lot of people say it doesn't exist, which, I mean, we're just talking terms and their words and what do words mean. But they believe in a similar narrative to the Garden of Eden, right? Where Adam drew near to a tree he wasn't supposed to draw near to, right? And was cast down from Jannah as a result.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar. And then there's hadiths too. But like the whole original sin thing, it's not that. Okay, it's not like you don't believe it in the sense that like, because a Christian will argue then you think you could be perfect and not sin. And that's not really, no, I mean, I sin all the time. Everybody sins. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people today, everyone's going to sin. But that doesn't mean like you were actually born a sinner. Like, did you sin before you sin? Can you sin before you know better? That's another way I would put it. Like, can you sin really before you know better? Like, I don't think you can. Like, you don't know better. But like, I think the Christian dogma is more like you were born a sinner. Like, even before like you do anything, like right as you're born, you're a sinner. Like, that's why I know like a lot of churches baptize babies because it'll wash away that original sin, and then they don't have to worry about that. But like the original sin thing, I've never believed in it. That was a thing I always struggled with as a Christian too. Like, it's like with free will. Like, I think in Sunni Islam, it's more like, I believe a lot of, I'm not speaking for all of them, but I know there are some sects that believe in predestination. Like, I think it's Calvinism that believes in predestination. And I think there are some Sunni sects that are like very Calvinistic in that sense. Like, they believe like everything, like what you ate for breakfast, like was predestined. You know what I mean? Like, but I think like with Shia and especially Alawites, it's more like we believe in conditioning, like plays a great role. So like there's not complete free will, but at the same time, there's not complete predestination either. Like for example, like if you're born in certain situations or like, you can be conditioned a certain way. Like you see it all the time. You know what I mean? And so like you see how like you see it through like generational abuse and things.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or generational alcoholism or generational crime. Like this is conditioning. Like someone's born into like a family of alcoholics, right? Their chances of not being alcoholic are slim. But that's conditioning. It's not necessarily like they didn't have free will. They did to a degree, but in a way, and to a degree they didn't. Because to a degree, like they're conditioned to that. You know what I mean? So like you have free will up to a certain point, then you can make your choice. Now, whether or not God knows the choice you're going to make ahead of time, I don't know, man. I can't answer that, but it's whatever anybody wants to believe, really.
Yeah, that's a big topic with kind of modern theology, the whole, what they call it, open theology, where how does all that square away? So let's see here.
Did I tell you about how like I even met the Alawites, like became part of it? Like that video I saw, I think I talked about that already, right? Yeah. The Green Star. Yeah, I talked about that. Yeah. I just wanted
it's
to
an
make
Alawite documentary.
that was really, really, really was a moment for me. Like, and like I've got it on like our Facebook page under videos. If you get down far enough, you'll see the Green Star. It's not the full movie. The full movie is like 2 hours, but like it's cropped down to like 5 minutes. Yeah. And like it shows you like the story, because the story is that like the murderers of Imam Hussein carry his, and this is a true story. The murderers of Hussein carry his severed head like as a trophy, okay, and they're bringing it back, and they stop at this monastery on the way to sleep. Now, before they get there, the daughter of the monk is having visions, okay? She's having visions, and in these visions, Jesus Christ is saying to her, the green star is God's blood. The green star is God's blood. She doesn't know what it means. She goes blind. All kinds of stuff happens. And then these people show up, and they've got Hussein's head, and they ask, they don't ask. They basically barge into the monastery, and they're like, we're staying here, feed us and stuff. And so they do. But then, like, later that night, the monk's, like, peeking around and stuff, like, looking around, and he sees from under, like, Hussein's holy head is covered, and he sees, like, light coming from it, and it's reciting the Quran. His severed head is reciting the Quran. And this is a true story. It's even said to have been prophesied, like, 400 years before this happened. That monastery was written on those monastery walls that like salvation will come through here, or something similar to that. And so like that's a huge, like that whole story, it's amazing. And it's like that's like it's a Shia thing, like it's well believed, like as a true story, that like the murderers brought his head there, like it spoke to the monk. The monk converts to Islam almost immediately upon seeing this miracle of the severed head. Grows his beard out and stuff, and the daughter, of course, then I believe she gets her vision back, but she has these real bad headaches and she was passing out and stuff. But yeah, that's the green star is God's blood. And Christ was saying to her, he's saying, and they show the green star in the sky. It's all referencing Imam Hussein, and that they're going to see. So
it's a green star in the sky is the green star that they're referencing.
Yeah, like it represents Imam Hussein, like. The green star is Imam Hussein, basically. Like it's just kind of like pointing to it, like the green star in the sky is going to be Imam Hussein. He's going to be the one that comes. He's going to be the severed head that comes and speaks the Quran miraculously, as prophesied much before. The video shows a little bit of it. If you Googled, like, if you want to see the full movie, it's all in Urdu, but it's in English subtitles. The full movie is awesome, man. Like, it's totally worth watching. But if you don't want to watch the full thing, it's on our Facebook, like under videos. If you scroll down far enough, you'll see the green star, and it's chopped down to we chopped it down to like 5 or 7 minutes of just like but the whole movie's worth watching because it gives the background of the Battle of Karbala, these evil people, may Allah curse them and their descendants. who killed Imam Hussein. It's just crazy. It's a great movie, man. Like again, it was pitched to me. I saw this on YouTube as if you watch every Christian that watches this movie will become Shia. So hey, there's the challenge. Every Christian out there, find the green star. If you can't find it on Google, go to our Facebook. If you can't find it there, or you want to watch the whole thing, I think if you Google Shia Net space and then green star, you'll see it, like the Shia Net YouTube page. They'll have the full movie in Urdu with English subtitles. It's worth watching.
Yeah. And here is a good question. Please tell me about the angels in Alawite, if possible. They have a different belief when it comes to angels.
Different from Shia, not. I don't think it's really much different than the Shia, really. Like, I mean, we believe in the angels. We believe in the jinn. We, when we do our prayers, we greet the angels. So I don't know what you want me to say, like different, like no. Maybe I don't understand what different would be, because I think everyone thinks angels the same way. Like, I definitely believe in angels, but I think most Muslims do.
Are there any named angels outside of Gabriel within Islam?
Yeah, Mikael too. And there's some more too. Honestly, there are more, like, there are more too. Like, I just honestly, I don't know off the top of my head, and I'm on my phone, so I can't like look it up. You know what I mean? So I'm sorry. Like,
yep, no worries. And what's Michael's significance?
It's really significant, actually. How do I explain this without butchering it completely? The teardrop of Michael. Oh man, there's something. It's like the teardrop of Michael was. Oh man, I forgot. I would have to look it up. The teardrop of Michael. It's hard to find too. Like, if you Google it, it's really hard to find. Like, this belief. It's one that's like not super well known. Like, even other Muslims don't know about it.
Yeah.
But it's something to do with, like, Michael shed a tear, and it, like, I don't want to say gave some type of salvation, but I think it's something along those lines. You'd have to Google it, man. Like, teardrop of Michael, maybe in quotes. Like, in quotes on Google, might show up. I remember, because I had a friend who taught me about this, like at mosque, and he said, because my name's Michael. And when I joined the Alawites, I was like, do I have to have a Muslim name? And they were like, no, because your name's Michael. It's not outside of Islam. And it's actually really important. And he told me, and he mentioned the hadith that talks about the teardrop of Michael. And I just honestly, I can't remember it off the top of my head. But no, it's super significant. Like, more than you'll realize, like, especially if by going on like mainstream Muslim websites and stuff. Because in Islam, it's more focused on Jabrail, on Gabriel. Michael's like downplayed more. Like, he's not really talked about that much, but there is a hadith about it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did just that and Googled teardrop of Michael. They say Michael was one of the first angels, along with Gabriel, to prostrate to Adam at the beginning. And Michael is mentioned in Surah 298. Whoever is an enemy to God and his angels and his messenger and Jibril and Mikael, then God himself is an enemy to the disbelievers. Some Muslims believe that in the reference to Surah 1169 is Michael, one of the three angels who visited Abraham. But we're not getting into the teardrop here.
Oh man, it's not in that article, really. I swear I've read that once, and it was in there somewhere, man. Like,
here.
Is everything expanded on that article? Like, are all the things expanded?
Oh yeah, it goes on here. It's
Maybe Control F, maybe teardrop or tear.
yeah. So it says in Islam, Michael, also spelled Mikhail, is one of the archangels that's said to be responsible for the forces of nature. In
Yes. There
Islam,
it is.
Michael is one of the four archangels, along with Jibril, Israfil, and Azrael. Quran 298 mentions him. He provides nourishment for the bodies and souls and is also responsible for the universal environmental events. Michael is often depicted as the archangel of mercy. Therefore, he is said to be friendly, asking God for mercy for humans, and is said to be one of the first who bowed down before Adam. Therefore, he is responsible for the rewards doled out to good persons in his life. From the tears of Michael, angels are created.
Yes.
Such angels are the helpers of Michael.
Yeah, that's where I was getting at. Yeah, I knew it was something huge. So, like, so often people will downplay the role of Michael, but if you really look into it, it's pretty humongous in Islam.
Yeah. I've not heard that. In Shia Islam, Dua Dawood, a supplication reportedly handed down by the sixth Imam, Jafar el-Sadiq. The reciter sends blessing upon Michael, with his name being spelled Mikhail. It says, O Allah, bestow your blessings on Michael, angel of your mercy and created for kindness and seeker of pardon, and for the supporter of the obedient people. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's you'd be surprised. It's really fascinating, actually.
Yeah,
It's almost like it's like, I know, because Michael's pretty big in Christianity too. Like, I almost think he's just as big in Islam, at least in Shia Islam. Well, I know there's some Christians that believe like Jesus is Michael or something similar to that. Like, he's the incarnated Michael or something like
I've
that.
heard that. That's I think that is Jehovah's Witness belief.
Okay.
It might be LDS belief as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I've heard of that. And boy, if you read the Bible, is it easy to draw those parallels?
It is. Yeah, it totally is. I think Seventh-day Adventists teach that too, actually.
Mhm.
I think they say Jesus is Michael. Yeah, no, it's totally easy to draw it. Something about like the trumpet will sound and Michael's call or something, or I don't know exactly. Spitballing here, but yeah, it's the angels are definitely interesting. And again, there's another like similarity with Islam and Christianity. Like there are angels. Like, I don't know. Do you from my experience in like studying Judaism in the past, like, I mean, in like mystical Judaism, like, yeah, they kind of believe in it, but like for the most part, like mainstream Judaism, they don't really like. It's all kind of just like a story, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they actually believe in it, like in Christianity and Islam.
Yeah. And let's see, in my opinion, the saints and angels are just a carryover of the layers and daemons. I'm not familiar with the term layers and daemons. Presumably, yeah. Have you ever heard the term layers? And daemons doesn't mean demon; it means just kind of like a spirit, is my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of layers, but I'm not really sure exactly what they're talking about per se. Well, I mean, it sounds interesting though, like
the patronage model of the Greco-Roman world. Yeah, I'm not terribly familiar with that. With, I guess, there's spirits that are protector spirits, I think is what we're getting at, kind of like angels.
Okay.
That's my take from what we have here. So, hopefully, if we have enough time, if your battery doesn't give out here soon, we could go into like the more esoteric, earlier, like pre-Reformation Alawite beliefs.
Sure.
So that there was the idea. Oh, and here we have angels are not spirits. So that's a good correction. Household and protector spirits. Yeah. And so there were triads like Seth is important in Aloism or in Alawite belief.
There's like a parallel to Seth, yeah.
And then I remember reading Seth and Enoch are related, even though they're quite far apart.
Yeah, it's like a spiritual thing. There's like a graph. I was shown once a graph, and I wish I had it. I don't though. But it had like I think 6 or 7 names on one side. I believe it started with Peter. You know, on the other side it had the other 6 or 7, and it had the lines across, showing who was related to who. But because it's like a historical thing, it's not something I really remember off the top of my head. Like it's not part of my everyday beliefs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, but no, you're right. Like there was totally spiritual parallels like that. Just like, you know, drawing the parallel with Jesus and Hussein, or Jesus and being the sum of the prophets. I mean, those are all parallels, you know. I would rather say parallels than reincarnation personally.
Yeah.
Although a lot of people get stuck on that because like there are people who like they want to believe in reincarnation so bad, but they also want to believe in Islam or even Christianity. They want to make it fit somehow. You know what I mean? Because it's like something they believe in, but like it doesn't necessarily fit their religion. They kind of want to try to wiggle it in there somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and you know, one thing we should touch on is the gate, the meaning, and what was the third one? Gate, meaning, veil.
I turn to the gate, I bow before the name, and I adore the meaning.
Gate, door, meaning.
I turn to the gate, I bow before the name, and I adore the meaning.
Yeah.
That's often been interpreted as being like a trinity too. But it's just references to people. You know what I mean? Whether those people are connected spiritually, that you could argue. You could say, sure, they are. Even like from a Islamic point of view, you could reading hadiths and Quran. But again, it's not like a trinity where like they're combined to be Allah. They're not. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like even in salats, Alawi, we do that. We turn to the gate, we bow for the name, we adore the meaning. Like as we do our, you know, standard Muslim salat, our prayers.
And it's done in Arabic exclusively?
I do it in English, honestly, because like that's what's comfortable for me. I do some of my prayers in Arabic. The ones I'm proficient at, the ones I butcher, I do in English because it's just better for me that way. I'm not super great at Arabic. I am studying it, but like it's just I'm 44, man, so it's like hard to learn new languages as you get older. You know, and I was like about 37 when I became Alawite, so I was already getting up there in age.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I am trying to learn. Like the script is the hardest part, like the fonts, reading the fonts.
Yeah. And so what's the significance to the gate, the meaning, the door?
Ali, Muhammad, and Salman, they're you know, people. Like, so like you turn to the gate, you bow before the name, and you adore the meaning. So like the gate, the name, and the meaning, they just refer to people. It's not like we're not saying they're God or anything or worshiping them.
Well, is there symbolism with referring to Ali as the meaning, Salman as the gate?
There's symbolism based on based on history. There's symbolism for sure that draws that. That's why you say it. But again, I'm trying to steer from it being like any kind of reference to God, because it doesn't mean like they're like in any way God. You know what I mean? Like the gate like is referred to a lot of times in Islam. Like I believe the Prophet Muhammad even says like Ali is the gate. like word for word. Like, so like, I mean, that's not uncommon. Like, again, like most of the things you're going to see, the Alawites, you're going to find it somewhere, either in the Quran or Hadith. And again, none of it will ever mean like anyone is God other than God. Like even when I say Ali is an avatar for Allah, he's still not God. He's different. You know what I mean? Like he's still created by God. You know what I mean? So he's a created being in that sense. Like, I mean, totally holy and everything, pure and immaculate, but like still different than God.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, what's meant by it?
Oh, like what's the meat? Why do it? Like in prayer,
or what? Like
it's like more. It's more symbolic. It's more symbolic. It's kind of more like you know what it really is more like saying when you say, I turn to the gate, I bow before the name and adore the meaning. Really, what it is, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's a shahada, in the sense like it's the shahada to become Muslim, but it is a way. It's more like an identity thing. You do it as an expression of your Alawite identity. That's the main purpose of it.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, it kind of is like a shahada in the sense like, if you do your salats and you don't say it, you know, like you're probably not Alawite. But if you do say it, you're Alawite. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like, really, if you want to be Alawite, I mean, really, all you have to do to be Alawite is the shahada with the waliya. Don't do it without the waliya. You have to include Ali Wali Allah after you say, you know, Muhammad Rasulullah, to be Shia and to be Alawite. But like typically, if you really want to express that you are Alawite and to verify it as your identity, you do include in your prayers, I turn to the gate, I bow before the name, and I adore the meaning. Again, it's more of an identity thing than it is even a religious thing per se, or even a spiritual thing. It's like, you know, I'm an Alawite. This is how I declare it.
Gotcha. And is there a way that Ali is like the meaning? Like, what is a gate and what is a door?
Yeah, I mean, that's an awesome question. Like, I mean, like, I definitely believe, like, I could say, you know, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, he is like one with the Alawite, one with his household. Like, they're all connected. So like, Ali could be the gate. Ali could be the name and the meaning. Like, but so could the Prophet. So it's like, because they're all connected. Like, spiritually, religiously, theologically speaking, I mean, they're such old terms. Like, I don't think they're really taken literal in that sense. It's more just like a mystical kind of thing, like the gate of knowledge, you know, the gate of wisdom, the gate to the correct path, the gate to the spirit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the gate to Allah, the gate to Al-Bayt. Like, it's a lot of things. Like, for me, when I say it, it's more of like about identity. Like, when I do my salats, I include that in my salats. You know what I mean? So it's like a personal thing, like more than it is. Like, I could not do it, and I could still feel like I did my salat. Like, it's still valid, but that's something I do include, which is different than, you know, regular Shia don't do that. They don't include that. Gotcha. That's an Alawite thing.
Mostly a holdover from the pre.
It is a holdover, but it's all about identity in that sense. Like, that's just like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, anything with identity, man. Like, you know, sometimes people wear a cross, right? Like, to show they're Christian. This isn't a way to show to yourself that you're an Alawite. It's an identity thing, you know?
Gotcha. Right, and care to explain more about the jinn spirits? Are they all evil?
No, not all jinn are evil. In fact, like, jinn are like, jinn, which I do believe in, like, jinn are actually like between angels and humans. Okay? And like, there are actually good and bad jinn. in fact, hadiths tell us that there were good jinn at the Battle of Karbala that fought alongside the Alawite, the household of the Prophet, on his side. But there are also bad jinn. Jinn can also appear as different things. Like a jinn can appear as like an animal, like a black cat. Like I think that's where the thing about black cats came from. Is that a jinn can appear as black cats or dogs. Like I believe in jinn, actually. I do. I really do. Like when I first became Muslim, I was like kind of just like interested about it, and like the more I studied it and the more about the hadiths, it's like, I mean, for me, it's like, if you think this is the only plane of existence, then maybe you don't believe in jinn, whatever. You know what I mean? But if you think there are like different realms of existence and stuff, like why wouldn't there be jinn? You know what I mean? So like, and the jinn, yeah. So yeah, jinn aren't all bad. In fact, some are good. There are good jinn, but like, there's also this thing where jinn appear as like short and red skinned and hairy. And I think that's kind of made its way down through like folklore too, throughout the years, manifesting itself in like, I don't know, I can almost imagine it. Like you'll see like these evil like spirit things people will draw. They're like little short guys with like hairy and red skin. Like I think that all comes from Islamic, you know, it's like came from Islam and they became a folklore and then evolved. But yeah, like jinn, yeah, not all jinn. There are some really good jinn.
Yeah, and I've heard this too. They can possess dogs and people.
Yeah, like they can appear as, and possession. I've been told that. I don't know. Like I don't know if I more believe that they can possess or that they appear as. Like I kind of tend to believe they'll appear as rather than possess. But I mean, then am I splitting hairs at that point? Is there really a difference? Like, like let's say my cat's a jinn, like it was knocking my books over just to get at me while I was on the show. You know what I mean? It's a bad jinn trying to make me look bad. Like, is that cat like is it a jinn appearing as a cat, or is it a jinn possessing a cat's body? I can't answer. I don't know, man. Like, but yeah, anything's possible in my opinion. Again, like most of this stuff's my opinion. Like, hopefully, like I'm saying my opinion enough, and that I'm not trying to represent like. I feel comfortable representing like the Alawites in America and even many in Syria, but like I don't want to seem I'm representing 12ers because they all have their own opinion. You know what I mean? Or any other sect or any other Shia. So
yeah,
but yeah, I in my opinion, anything's possible, man. It could be either way. So possession, you never know.
So I've heard that there's a different belief concerning Aisha, rather, compared to Sunni Islam.
Oh, well, it's not okay. A different belief in the sense, like, I don't think, like, people want to say that the Shia hate her or whatever. I don't think that's true. Like, but we look to Fatima as the leader of the women of the world, whereas the Sunnis tend to look more towards Aisha. So I think that's kind of a difference between the two, in my opinion. And like, as far as like, I don't really want to speak like anything bad about anybody, because like I don't have a negative personally. Alawites, I don't know if this is because there's been some sort of like, people have accused Alawites of being kind of Sunnified after the Reformation under the new Assad, Bashar, because he's married to a Sunni. But like, I have no hostility towards any of them. Like, so I'm not, I mean, like, people want to say that Shia hate, or they even, on the flip side, they want to say Sunnis hate Fatima Zahra. They want to say that they hate her. I don't believe they hate her. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I might be getting myself in trouble saying they don't. I don't know. All I know is that I love everybody, dude. Like, and that's the Alawite way.
What's the what's the historical background between, various contentions between Fatima and Aisha?
Well, it's not that it's contentious. It's like it all goes back to like who is the successor after the prophet. That's basically what you're looking at. Okay, like the Sunnis believe that the Sahaba, what they call the Sahaba, the companions, like the prophet's friends and stuff, were who continued, were to take over after him, right? We believe it's the Alawite, his family. I mean, and I believe that because it's in the Quran, like it says so in the Quran. Now they say like, but that at the same time, the Sunnis don't say they don't reject like Imam Ali and stuff. Like they think he's the fourth caliph. We say he's the first Imam. They say he's the fourth caliph. They believe in Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr is the first. They believe he's the first caliph. Then Umar, and then Osman. Okay, and then Ali, then Hassan, then Hussein. We started Imam Ali because we believe that even in the Sunni hadiths, if you Google it, you'll see like there's the hadith of, I think it's called the hadith of secession, maybe, or who is going to take over. You'll see. And also, I believe it, which points that Imam Ali is who's to take over, right? And so the reason that's important and relates to Fatima and Aisha, because Fatima is related, you know what I mean, like to Imam Ali, in the sense that like Aisha's a wife, okay? Fatima's a daughter of the Prophet, okay? So like it gets into like relation and who to follow, but like that's why it's different. It's because like if you tend to follow Fatima, you tend to be Shia because you're following the family of the Prophet, not a prophet's wife and his buddies. You know what I mean? I don't mean to disrespect anybody by saying it that way. But I mean, ultimately, what sells me on Shia over Sunni is the Battle of Karbala. And the question I have for my brothers who are Sunni is, if the Prophet was alive during the Battle of Karbala, where would he have been? Would he have been at the side of his grandson, who he loves, Imam Hussein? And on that same note, where were these companions that the companions of the Sunnis follow, where were they during the Battle of Karbala? Why weren't they there on the battlefield where the Prophet would have been? That's my ultimate tough question for a Sunni. Like that's my ultimate. And also, I believe, again, it says in the Quran, because like now a lot of the Sunnis will say, well, when he says, when the Prophet says that asks you to follow his near relatives, he's talking about his wife. He's talking about his wife and her family and stuff, not talking about like his daughter and them. Well, I mean, later in the Quran, it says, like my household, like in there are hadiths on both Sunni and Shia, which clearly state who the household is. And it's not Abu Bakr, it's not Umar, it's not Osman. It's Ali, it's Fatima, it's Hassan, it's Hussein. So to me, it's the clear path. Like, again, I still respect Sunnis. I mean, I even pray with Sunnis sometimes. Like, I have nothing against it, but at the same time, it's like the ultimate purpose I see and reason why I'm Shia is because A, Karbala, and B, the Quran. The Quran says, my near relatives. It even says they'll be like, I know I talked about this earlier, but it's like not an atonement, but like, what's the word I'm looking for? There will be like I forgot what I used earlier, but basically like my household, the Ahlul Bayt, which all the hadiths agree is, who I mentioned earlier, are for you a purification. That's what it says in the Quran. Are for you purification. So like you're made holy through these people. How are they not the first? And if Ali, and again, it goes back to where I mentioned in the Quran earlier, where it says that, he who gives zakat while bowing, he's a wali. So that's Ali, right? So how is he not first? How is Ali not the first if he's the wali? How is it he is not the one to inherit Islam from the Prophet? And that's what it all goes back to. Even the beef with like Fatima and Aisha, and like, no, Sunnis don't hate nobody, Shias don't hate nobody. Really, it's just they got a difference of opinion on who inherited it. Really, who is the carrier of the torch? And I mean, if you look, I'm telling you, if you study it hard enough, you'll see. Like, you study even Bukhari or Muslim, those hadiths that are Sunni, like you'll see in there like exactly what I'm saying. Like Imam Ali's the one. Like he's the one, man. Like he is the Amir al-Mu'mineen. He's the commander of the faithful. And now, of course, people want to say, oh, that means we worship him and stuff. No. Now, again, that's just the Sunni Shia thing. The Alawite thing where we say he's an avatar for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's different. That's like a different thing. But we're talking here about like who's the inheritor, who carries the torch of Islam. We believe it's Imam Ali as-salam. And let's do a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We do that salawat. That's what we call the salawat. Mm-hmm. It's Allah bless the Prophet Muhammad and his household. Because, there's a hadith that even says that when you do a salawat, you don't just bless the Prophet Muhammad. And I believe this is a Sunni hadith that even says you bless his whole household. And again, the hadiths all say who the household is. It's Ali, Fatima, Hassan, Hussein. It's like undisputable. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's just theology, man. Like at the end of the day, we're all Muslims if we love Allah. If we do the Shahada, I prefer it with the Wali of Ali. I mean, but I still, if you don't have it, I still think you're a Muslim. I still accept you as a brother. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, as long as you love Allah and you love the Prophet and you do your best, and you're a Muslim, man. Like it's everything else. Like I look at it this way, like basically, like with theology, a lot of it's commentary. Like you get to a point where you're just splitting hairs at some point. I mean, it's great to argue it, and it's interesting, but you don't want it to divide too much. You know what I mean? Because then it defeats the whole purpose of it. If the purpose of it's to build community and have a greater world, but we're gonna kill each other over what we think happened 700 years ago. What's the point? That's not serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? I mean, I think people can appreciate that, man. Like, again, God knows your heart. Like, He knows, if you're a Muslim or not. Like, it's all up to Allah, dude.
Yeah.
So,
I've wondered where Sunni Islam and Shia Islam, they converge at Ali, right? So they'll eventually put Ali in charge, right? So
yeah,
it's not
like they say he's like fourth. They say he's like the fourth caliph. Yeah.
Although, I mean, he is eventually the caliph. So you wonder why we carry the old grudges after that.
You kind of do, yeah. Like if you're like me, or you, who, we're from the West, we didn't grow up in it per se. You know what I mean? It's easier for us, I guess. You know what I mean? To say oh, that grudge is kind of, and it kind of is, right? It's like, why? Why not just that's just theology. It's,
yeah. Well, I mean, they both converge at him as the guy in charge, right? So it's kind of weird that they all kind of fold under his reign, right?
They
that
do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is the hadiths are different, and then you're following hadiths which are not accepted. My battery's about to die again, man, on my phone this time. But so then you have hadiths, which are different, and then you have practices which are different, like how to pray. It's different. Like we pray different than Sunnis do. Sunnis tuck their arms. We have our arms to the side. It's a lot of things. A lot of it's cultural. Some of it's political. Some of it's theological. But I see what you're saying. Like, and Sunnis do claim to love Mullah Ali. You know, like most of them do say, "Oh, we love Ali." But I mean, to me, it's like, if you really love him, why don't you accept the wali of him? Like when you do your call to prayer, you don't even accept the wali of Ali. So like, I mean, I guess you can say you love him, but do you really? I mean, that's a question only they can answer themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So we're following the hadith of the Ahlul Bayt, the household of the Prophet and their descendants, all the way, you know, to Imam Mahdi. And it does say there will be 12. Like, I think it's the hadith of like, there's a hadith that says there will be 12. And that's another problem for the Sunnis. It's another talking point for the Shia, that there are 12 imams. How come there aren't 12 caliphs? When it says there will be 12. There will be 12 after me. I mean, all this though, like there's a rebuttal for all of it, man. Like a Sunni can come on here and totally smoke me. Like, and then a Shia could come on and totally smoke him. You know what I mean? And like logic and theology and point to this and this and this and this. But like at the end of the day, it's all theology. Let's focus on, for me, Imam al-Hussein, the savior of mankind, the intercessor for us all, on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Imam Ali. And let's get Mahdi. We want Mahdi now, you know? So that would be amazing. That's to me is the focus. Like I'd rather build bridges than burn them. But again, it's easier for us, like people like me and you. I don't mean to box you in, but I'm saying like we're not from the Middle East, so we don't have like hundreds of years of family grudges or whatever there is, you know what I mean, or political beefs to try to obstacle around, you know. So it's always easier from the outside. But I do feel the same way sometimes. It's like, I mean, they love Ali too, you know, like, but then you'll find the question is, do they really? And then it's like, well, I mean, where were the companions during Karbala? Like, I mean, it's a legit question, man. And where would the Prophet have been? That's a legit question. So,
yeah,
I'm down to 3%, brother. I gotta probably roll, man.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. You know, maybe we could do it again sometime. A lot of interesting thoughts and a lot of new thoughts here. So
yeah, this was great. I really appreciate you having me on. Can you send me a link to this so I can watch it later? Like, I had some good. You had some really good questions. I felt like there was some stuff I should look up and give you a better answer for. So if you can text me that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you.
Peace, man.
Yep. All right. So everybody, feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you for everybody that made it till the end here. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. And yeah, thanks so much.